GamingBolt presents 15 amazing Easter eggs in Red Dead Redemption 2 you need to check out. Games made by Rockstar are usually gold mines for amazing Easter eggs and secrets. Grand Theft Auto V had so many of these that we're still talking about them 5 years after the game's initial launch. With Red Dead Redemption 2, which has probably one of the most expansive and detailed open worlds ever created, Rockstar seems to have kicked things up a notch. In this feature, we're going to take a look at 15 of the most amazing Easter eggs we've been able to find in Red Dead Redemption 2 so far. If there are any that you've come across that we haven't mentioned in this feature, don't forget to mention them in your comments. Without further ado, let's jump right in.
Enjoy your fishing, kid, while you still can.
Who are they?
No one to worry about, no one at all.
Alien UFO. Rockstar's love affair with the extraterrestrial life continues in Red Dead Redemption 2. In Hanover, north of Emerald Ranch, there is an abandoned shack near a small pond. Inside this shack, you'll find a number of spooky things, from decaying skeletons to tons of melted candles that seem to hint at some sort of ritual. The most interesting thing, however, is a small piece of paper with a mysterious sermon scribbled on it, and if you follow these instructions and go to the same shack in the middle of the night, you'll be able to witness a UFO flying above it. The Hobbit. Close to Donner Falls, to the northeast of Fort Wallace, players can find a house off the road that looks a great deal like the houses you might remember from the Shire in The Lord of the Rings, complete with overgrown walls and a structure that seems to be built into the surroundings rather than with bricks and stone. Sadly, you can't go inside, which makes sense. Bilbo is probably off vacationing in Rivendell. Meteor. North of Annisburg, close to the Brandywine Drop, there is a small secluded house that is much more interesting than it appears at first glance. If you go inside, you can see a hole in the roof as well as in the ground, where a large rock crashed into the structure, with trails of smoke still rising from the hole on the surface. There are also a few corpses lying around, all charred to a crisp. If you investigate the hole, you can even pick up a meteorite from inside of it. Exorcist Woman. There's plenty of creepy stuff in Red Dead Redemption 2, but this is probably in the top 5 in terms of creepiness. Near the western boundaries of the Braithwaite Manor in Rhodes, there's a small little shack, practically a cubicle, with a hole in the door in the shape of a crescent moon, with chains wrapped around the structure to keep the door locked. From inside the small shack, you can hear the deranged, manic screaming of a woman, and if you try to peek inside, she lunges at you through the hole, threatening to kill you and promising that she'll find a way home. And she looks, well, not pleasant to say the least. Additionally, if you've paid attention to the Braithwaites in Chapter 3 of the game and some of their secrets, you might be able to put 2 and 2 together and realize just who this woman is. Ka. A little ways west off Logris, players can find a ridiculously huge snake's body wrapped around a low-hanging branch of a tree. It doesn't do anything, it doesn't bite, which makes sense since it's, well, kinda dead. But it's been put there as a pretty clear reference to Ka, the huge and powerful snake from the Jungle Book. Flying Machine. North of the Big Valley, close to the Little Creek River, you can find something that might seem a little out of place in 1899's American frontier. In the seclusion of the forest there, you can find the crashed remains of a flying machine with a corpse stuck inside of it. This is an amusing little callback to a moment that you might remember from the first Red Dead Redemption, where a character named Charles jumps off a cliff in his flying machine to demonstrate the miracle of flight, but promptly plummets and crashes into the ground. Charles also makes a comment about how people doubted Icarus as well, and when Arthur makes a note about the crashed machine in his journal, he too, funnily enough, mentions Icarus. Marston's famous swimming skills. As anyone who's played the first Red Dead Redemption will tell you, John Marston is a terrible swimmer. In fact, he's no swimmer at all. Even Arthur, who can only swim very slowly and for very limited periods of time, looks like an Olympic swimmer when compared to Marston from RDR1. Red Dead Redemption 2 actually pokes fun at this. At one point in the game's earlier chapters, the gang sets up camp near a lake, and during a conversation, Arthur has a little bit of fun with John, noting that he must be pretty nervous being this close to the water. Micah's horse. Horses are incredibly important in Red Dead Redemption 2. You build a bond with them, build a mutual trust, and as that trust grows, they become increasingly more useful and efficient. The same applies with your fellow gang members and their horses as well. Micah's horse, called Baylock, is particularly interesting for reasons that the fans of the first game might recognize. Why? Well, Baylock is the name of the horse you get in the first Red Dead Redemption with the lowest possible honor level, the robot. The road to getting this Easter egg is pretty long-winded, but it's totally worth it. It unlocks in Chapter 4 after completing the mission The Joys of Civilization. After this, you can meet an eccentric scientist named Marco Dragic, which kicks off a very interesting side quest. Later on, you need to head to Dragic's lab and have to do so under very specific circumstances, during nighttime while in the middle of a thunderstorm. There's a lot more stuff that you need to do following that, and I'd rather not write an entire walkthrough here, so let's just skip to the payoff. You ultimately meet a robot. Yep, a proper robot in 1899 on top of a mountain. Typical Rockstar. Mammoth. In the snow-capped peaks in the Grizzlies, right in between Deadboot Creek and Spider Gorge, there's something very, very cool for you to see. Half buried under the snow, you can see the skeleton of a giant mammoth, tusks and everything. If only this guy had somehow been a legendary animal we could hunt, that would have been awesome, but I guess this is cool as well. Viking equipment. Slightly north of Annesburg, close to the Roanoke Valley, you can find a Viking burial site. Just go with it. Inside the burial site, there's skeletons and a cool maze-like structure to explore. Explore it a bit, and you will eventually come across a Viking hatchet as well as a Viking helmet, both of which you can equip with Arthur and use in the game moving forward. Pirate weapon. Red Dead Redemption 2 might be a land of outlaws, bandits, and gunslingers, but a bit of pirate love is always appreciated as well. South of Caliga Hall in Rhodes, if you head to one of the small islands and somehow manage to make your way through the alligator-infested surroundings, you can find a broken boat which has a pirate cutlass inside of it. Going forward, you can use this weapon for melee combat to turn Arthur Morgan into a badass blend of a gunslinger and a pirate. Bigfoot. We've gotten to the point where we almost expect games made by Rockstar to have at least some sort of reference to Bigfoot. Red Dead Redemption 2 doesn't disappoint, even though it doesn't take it as far as GTA 5 did. Located in West Elizabeth, close to Mount Shan, players can find the skeleton of a huge humanoid figure in the mountains, which could either be Bigfoot or just a dead regular old giant, but knowing Rockstar, it's probably Bigfoot. Bonnie MacFarlane. Bonnie MacFarlane had a pretty important role in the first Red Dead Redemption, as one of the first major characters John meets at the beginning of the game, who also saves his life incidentally. So it's good to see that she gets a nice little reference in Red Dead Redemption 2 as well. Head to the southern beaches of New Hanover, where you'll see a guy next to a crashed boat taking his final breaths. When you loot his corpse, you'll find a letter addressed to Bonnie, in which the man apologizes to her for letting things get out of control, and also that he will always love her. Gorilla. This one is probably among the weirdest Easter eggs in this feature, if only because it has no explanation for it. A little ways north off the town of Strawberry, close to some railway tracks, you can see a broken box, and inside of this box is a random gorilla statue. That's it, just a broken box and a gorilla statue. Why is it there? No clue. What does it do? Nothing at all. But it sure looks cool. And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from GamingBolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.